woman going through divorce and you are thinking about returning to work or starting to work flexibly, then this is the video for you. I'm Kerry Griffiths. I'm a financial advisor who works exclusively with divorcing women, and this is the Willow Brook Lifestyle Financial Planning YouTube channel. I'm delighted to be joined by a guest today. I have along with me Juliet Turnbull. Good morning, Juliet.
Hi.
Hi there. Juliet is the founder and CEO of 2 to 3 Days, which is the UK's leading community of highly capable women seeking to pursue their careers on a flexible basis. And their mission is to link employers directly with these very, very capable women, which I know so many of you in my audience are. And the reason I've asked Juliet along, and I'm so delighted that she's joined us, is because when you are getting divorced, this issue becomes even more paramount. Often when you are moving into single parenting or co-parenting, the ability to be able to work flexibly is just paramount. If you think about a co-parenting situation where you are sharing custody, being able to condense your hours, being able to work around the days that you do and don't have the children can be super, super important. So Juliet, shall we start by hearing about what your business does and why?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. It's lovely to be here, and it's lovely to talk to all your clients out there. 2 to 3 Days is a platform that enables progressive companies to advertise their business and professional roles to a targeted group of women across the UK who want to pursue their careers on a flexible basis.
Perfect. And why did you start it, Juliet? Because there's quite a story behind this, isn't there?
Oh, there's a very big story.
Tell me.
The why is that I feel so passionately, and I believe with every bone in my body, that women should be allowed to fulfill their full potential whilst they are raising a family, and that home and work are not mutually exclusive. And I believe, I cannot stand the phrase work-life balance, because it sounds like you either do work or you do life, home.
Okay.
And I believe passionately in work-life integration, and I believe that you can have both. I don't believe you can be all work or all home, which is what the current model is showing you can't. But I do absolutely believe in work-life integration, and I believe that you can have both, and that pursuing your career on terms that work for you and being the best mum that you want to be are not mutually exclusive. Perfect. And so I don't know how much you wanted me to go into my story, but
definitely tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, well, in a nutshell, this business is 5 years old, just to give it some sort of context, and I knew nothing, and I mean nothing, about recruitment, software, marketing and sales when I started this business. And so it's been akin to climbing Everest in flip-flops backwards, because I have had to learn everything myself. It's been utterly exhausting. But I set it up because I started my career as a chartered surveyor in the retail property industry, really male-dominated industry. I had to act like a man, I had to think like a man, I had to dress like a man, and I had to play the man's game. And it was just
that's whole another video there, Juliet.
There's another video there.
Yeah.
And that has to be, at the tender age of about 29, I remember sitting eating my peanut butter on toast behind Selfridges in my swanky office going, there has to be more to life than this. There has to be. And that was, I'm nearly 52. That was 33 years ago. And I was going, there has to be more to life than this. Then I sadly had cancer, and I had to recuperate, and I couldn't do a full week. And so I was at home recuperating from cancer, and I found that I still did all my work, but I was doing it at home in my pajamas. And that was 20 odd years ago. And I had a very much a client facing role, and I had a very senior role, and I had sales responsibilities, I had legal responsibilities, and I still managed to do it all in my pajamas. And then I had the chance to work for myself, and I worked on terms that worked for me. And this was before having kids. And I earned more money than I ever earned, because I sort of got my priorities sorted out. Then children came along, and that completely derailed everything, because they do, and they take precedent, and you always think you're in charge, but they dominate the beat at which you can dance, I think, is the good way to put it.
Terminology, yes.
And but I always instinctively, I always wanted to carry on working. but I also wanted to be a great mum. I want to do pasta and pesto. I want to walk the dog. I want to be there for them. I want to put them to bed. And that's how I set the business up, because I thought the recruitment market isn't really supporting these women. So my mission is to advance women's equality through in the workplace through the power of flexible working. And I set up to build this business that can be scalable. I'll settle for the UK at the moment, but I have aspirations across the whole of the world that absolutely empowers women to reach their full potential on terms that work for them.
This just,
in a nutshell.
This just speaks to every bone in my body. I absolutely love what you do, and I think you are so ahead of the curve in what you did. Like that kind of little snippet you just gave us about getting all of your work done in your pajamas. And actually, if anything, this year, Juliet, wouldn't you say that we've become more aware as a nation of the ability to do that? This COVID year, we've had the kind of a scenario where pre-COVID, that trust didn't necessarily exist between an employer and employee always. And they've had a little taste and a little insight. So that's quite exciting for the road ahead, I think. Do you agree?
Well, I think it is. I think I've always said, you get bad apples in every basket. And the old adage of it's the 80-20 rule. Sadly, there are still companies out there that post the pandemic want all their staff back working full-time in the offices. Well, we've never gone after talking to companies like that, right? Honestly, they're dinosaurs, and when they get with my program, they can come and talk to me, but until they do, I'm not interested in talking to them. So I've always only ever talked to progressive companies, and of course, they sit on a scale. They might be very unprogressive one day, and the next day they start to be progressive. So you've got to go on the journey with them. And some companies are so big, it's like trying to turn an oil tanker in the North Sea. It takes time, and therefore you've got to show patience and resilience to go with them on that journey. Other companies are naturally more nimble, and it depends on their size and it depends on their senior leadership. But we at 2 to 3 days have only ever talked to companies who get it. And I have turned big business away because I go, you don't get it, do you? And then I go, and I talked to a global business back in the summer that wanted to work with us. And I said, you are not progressive enough. And they went, you're kidding me. And I went, no. I said, get with it. And then you can come back and work with us. Because we had complaints from some of the women who advertised on us, who went for the jobs. And they said, those aren't flexible jobs. And so I turned a big check away in the summer because they weren't flexible.
And this needs to work in the way that you have your vision. There's no point doing it half-hearted. It has to work. That's the pure power of it, is having that mission and that vision, and that ability to be able to pursue that 100%. So this platform that you have is just so valuable for the employers and the women alike. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why? What are the benefits for how you work, for the employers and for the clients?
Okay, well, for companies, it gives them a supercharged highway to talent gets put into different buckets. And the bucket that I'm looking after is what's called the experienced hire bucket. So I'm looking after women who are typically between the ages of 35 and 55. And companies are desperate to find them. And at the moment, they can't. They struggle. LinkedIn is just this massive machine, and it's slightly, in COVID, it has really burst its banks, and it's just this massive machine. Then you've got jobs boards that don't, the terminology that I was told many years ago, it's like a post and pray. There's no, the business model focuses on volume. There's no care or thought behind the companies or the candidates. It's just another big machine. And then you've got recruitment companies and headhunters, which charge a fortune. And so what companies get, they either have to pay a huge amount of money, or they get a lot of irrelevance. And so for us, they get a supercharged highway to highly capable women that they want to hire. We then save them time and money because we cost a fraction of what recruitment companies will give them, but we do not compromise on the caliber of the women that come forward. And for larger companies who really are on a mission, who put diversity and inclusion at the heart of their recruitment, we give them a platform, a captive audience to be able to explain their culture, their values, their ethos directly to the women that they either want to hire today or they want to hire in the future. And those women in a safe audience get to know why they should want to work for those companies. And for candidates, for the women out there, the reputation we've grown in the last 5 years, and I always talk about this, is we've got their back. Everything I do starts with what do we need to do to support the women of the UK. And actually, I'm writing here a job description of how I want to create champions of 2 to 3 days next year. And everything starts from that premise. I'm a real champion of women's potential, I suppose, in a nutshell. So the women know that we only have decent business and professional roles advertised on our site. And we've always got their back with everything that we do, and those examples I have shared. And the women also get the reassurance that the core clients that advertise on our site have consciously chosen to work with us because they want you in their business. So when you go for the interview, you know that you have automatic permission to bring your whole self to that interview and talk to that company about how you can do that job for them on terms that work for you.
I love that.
So that's what I'm constantly trying to do. And by doing that, I'm looking to accelerate the pace of change and to close the void between the business world and home life through my platform.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you.
So closing that void between business life and home life, integrating those things. What are your top tips? Have you got some top tips that you could share for the audience listening along today?
It's not easy. You know, I'm a working mum and it's really, really tough. So, and I am first class at being really, really hard on myself. So I come from a process of being really authentic on this one. I think my big top tips is it has to start with you. You have to take self-responsibility for who you are and how you want to show up in the world. And I do this by talking to myself and my poor dog. You know, who am I and what do I really want to do? And I will talk to myself when I'm walking out with my dog in the car. What is it that I really, really, really want? If you don't have clarity as an individual, how on earth can you expect your partner or your ex-husband or your family or your friends to know how they can support you? How can you help that company that you want to work with know how they can support you if you don't have clarity yourself? So you have to start with yourself and put yourself first and give yourself some self-love and put your oxygen mask on and ask yourself, what do I really, 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 really want? And I was asked again by my coach yesterday as I started to build this business. She says, Juliet, what do you really, really want? And I went, I really want to build 2 to 3 days on terms that work for me. They don't feel like they're on terms that work for me quite right at the moment because we're in startup mode and it's frantic and it's hectic and it's exhausting. But when I get real clarity, that's all I want to do. I want to build, if I could, a global business, but on terms that work for me. That means that I have proper work-life integration. So you have to start with that. The next thing,
a great time, Juliet, to be asking yourself that question, you know, as we kind of get into that period over Christmas where you have time to reflect on what's important and start in that new year. A key question that I quite often will ask my clients is, what does a full and beautiful life look like to you?
Oh, that's a lovely question. That's a brilliant question. And you just keep noodling away at it. And I'm a great believer in writing. I have pads of paper by my bed and by my desk, and I constantly write. And the connection between here and writing it is so powerful. If it just sits sloshing around in your head, you haven't got clarity. Just keep writing it and writing it and writing it until your head connects with your heart, connects with your gut, and then you are, you know, you're strong like bull. You are really strong. You are no stopping you because you've got clarity. And then you don't compare yourself to others because your journey is your own unique journey and you are in your flow, doing what is congruent to you and your values.
And that can be really hard to believe, can't it, Juliet? When you're not in flow and when you're not congruent, and you are comparing yourself, you can't ever imagine being in a place where you feel so content you're not comparing. But it happens. It generally happens when you get there. It generally happens.
Yeah, but also I spend a lot of my time not in flow, and I spend my time comparing myself to others, and I spend myself feeling very overwhelmed, because I forget where I want to be, because life gets in the way when you're making plans, and it depends on your personality type, and it depends what is thrown at you by your family and your friends and your team. Stuff happens. You have to keep coming back and centering yourself. And that takes constant refinement. You just don't do it, put it on a piece of paper and put it in the filing cabinet and forget about it. It's constant refinement.
Yes.
And today you have got me in a massive place of feeling in my flow, and I feel unstoppable, because if you'd spoken to me 2 days ago, I was in a complete and utter tiz, because that's life.
Yeah.
And then you have to do the work, and I have to do the work, and I have to stop myself, and I have to get reconnected, and there's stuff that I need to do. And that stuff is all the prep that happens behind the scenes that nobody sees. It's the unglamorous stuff, but it still has to happen. And nobody gets to where they want to be without doing that work. Nobody. And some people say, oh my God, Juliet, you make it look easy. I go, God, step into my world. It's utter chaos and chaotic quite often. And then I have clarity, and then we'll have a sprint and we'll move forward. But so it comes back. So the first tip is self-responsibility and really doing that work. The second week is what tip I'd have is clear communication.
Okay.
You've got to talk to the people in your inner circle who support you.
Yes.
You have to. And even if it's to say to them, I don't know. I'm scared. I don't know what I don't know. And that's okay. I do it the whole time. And it's, I'm a massive fan, and I think you are too, of Brené Brown. Absolutely. And it's about, the more I show my vulnerability to those who I really trust in my inner circle, the more they help me. Whether that's my team, whether they're working for me, or it's my stakeholders, whether it's my husband, my children, my friends and family. I know who I can reach out to, and I can say, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And they do.
Absolutely. Those FFTs, which I won't spell out today, but those FFTs, Google it if you don't know what that is. It's so true that
it's so true.
You are just experiencing so much change so often, and reach out to those around you, because some of them have been through it, and it does help.
And it's clear, and they will support. Every time I reach out, people will help me. And I have reached out a lot this week on some very big things to do in my business. And every single person has reached out and said, I will help you. And as a result, I therefore get in my flow. I therefore get focused. I therefore know what I need to do. And the other thing is to let go. I think my colleague and I, Timmer, who writes the most amazing content for our site, we are writing a piece at the moment about teamwork. It's all about how you manage the home and the business. And it's all about teamwork. There's too much about, I think, women of our age have had to be sort of seen to be super women. They've got to do it all.
Yeah.
And as a result, we are absolutely walking insomniac carcasses, and we are just frazzled. I've been there, done it, got the t-shirt so many times. And what always comes back is, what do I need to let go of in order that I can get back into my flow? And only this morning I was talking to my business coach, and I started off, he uses special terminology he uses, but it's a bit like, I'm going to say it's a bit like your run rate. So there's my, if my water was right up here,
yeah,
I couldn't pass you this bottle without spilling it, because I just can't cope.
Yeah.
But as I let go of stuff, I get to a stage where my run rate, which is now here in this bottle, is controllable.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
I personally have had a run rate due to business and personal reasons for the last month that has put my run rate up here. And I have not been able to, I have coped. My Achilles heel is I don't sleep when I'm that overrun. And so what I've had to do in the last few weeks is just bring my run rate down. And I'm entering Christmas in a place where my run rate is a lot calmer. I can cope. which means I've got clarity and I can take care of myself. But I've had to let go of stuff. And so I've either had to let go of it internally in home, and I've had to say to my husband, you know, I'm lucky, I know your audience is with divorced women, but they will have other support systems. And they might have, you know, they might have unhelpful husbands, but they might have helpful husbands, or they've got new boyfriends or partners or whatever, or mothers or sisters. Who can help them? And I've had amazing conversations with my husband, who is a typical domestic dinosaur.
Yeah, we talked about
his L plates on the back, and he has helped me in immeasurably in lots of different little ways that has meant that my run rate has calmed down and I'm not feeling like I'm Superwoman on steroids.
Gosh, you are
so you have to let go.
I love it. I love it. It's so exciting. And I do relate to that a lot. When you are in that place where your run rate is so high, you cannot see the wood for the trees. You know, there's a panic, and kind of bringing it down just actually moves you forward in so much more of a progressive way. But it's having that ability to recognize you're there, because sometimes when you're there, you don't stop and breathe and take it into you, and just having that ability to actually stop and say,
well, we could have another chat about, it's all about capacity. It's all about your capacity. And if you cannot run. And what happens with women nowadays is they run at such a high level capacity at work and at home.
Yeah.
And therefore they are absolutely frazzled.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they want it to come down, you know, you might not want your run rate down to about 30% because that feels like you're too horizontal, but a sort of 75% run rate, because life will always throw what is called an uncontrollable at you, whether that is business or your home life. Something will happen that is a curveball that just flips you. We've all had them. And I've had one personally in the last few weeks, and I've had them with business, and you go, oh my God, how do I cope with this? But if your run rate's too high, you get to a stage when you can hardly breathe, and therefore you have got to get your run rate down to an acceptable operating level, which is around sort of 75%. And therefore you need to let go of stuff.
You need a buffer zone. You need that buffer zone, absolutely, for those things that happen.
So those are my top tips.
Juliet, you have been an amazing guest. I definitely need to have you back on, and we can just talk all things women, equality, and
thank you. It's been lovely.
I'm going to put your links, and please do go along and have a look at what Juliet's doing in 2 to 3 days. There is a wealth of content just like this that you are going to really enjoy reading all about. And then obviously her platform to find out more about roles that could be absolutely perfect for you as you step back or step into your career again. Thanks, ladies, and we'll join you again soon. Take care.
Thanks very much. Happy Christmas, everybody.
Happy Christmas. Take care.